Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong.
Go get 'em!
It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the Quicker Picker-Upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the Quicker Picker-Upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Oh, that spin class was brutal. Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on? Sure. It's wireless. Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password? Buick Envision 2021. Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable. That's a really tight spot. Don't worry. I used to hate parallel parking. Me too. Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you. All of you.
This is Cole.
BCSN Sports Wrap. Drew, you shook your head there for a second. I had to make sure I was on the right show. I hadn't been here so long with you. I started and I was like, oh, I got the wrong show? What show am I on today?
No, the producer didn't turn your mic on. So when you said, I could read your lips saying welcome to, and the first word I heard was Sports Wrap.
All right, so
I didn't hear welcome to BCSN. Take two.
All right, let's retake. Here we go. We'll do this live. 3, 2. Hello and welcome to another edition of the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford and AD Drew here. It's good to be back with you, Drew. How you doing, my man?
Doing fine, my brother. How we doing today, man? I don't know whether to be sad or happy. It's sad because football season ends on Saturday, but hey, conference basketball season begins 2 weeks after that, my brother.
Yeah, definitely, man. We, 5 weeks into the basketball season, but as you said, the end of the road for football and for our FCS teams and really just black college teams in general, with the Cricket Celebration Bowl coming up on Saturday, 5 days and something like 17 hours away as I look at the countdown on the celebrationbowl.com website. We've got 2 new teams that have never been in this contest. South Carolina State Bulldogs, the MEAC champion, with a record of 6-5, and of course the 15th ranked, nationally ranked Jackson State Tigers, representing the SWAC, with a record of 11 wins and 1 losses. And it's as we'll get into this, but Jackson State pretty much playing for the perfect season. It's short. It's not exactly perfect, obviously, but on the FCS level,
FCS perfection.
FCS perfection, yes. So we'll get a chance to talk about that, and we will do a little bit of mentioning and talk about some basketball stories and just some different things. Got some new hires to talk about in the SWAC, and a little bit into the second hour, or I should say midway through the show, given our start time, our good friend Charles Bishop will be coming on the pregame show. Can never get enough of the synergy that we have here at the Black College Sports Network, and the fact that we can go to guys like CB whenever we need to find out what's going on with Jackson State. And so I can't even imagine what it's like, Drew, for him and Neely to be in this space and place where they've seen this journey come this far, And, you know, for their alma mater, you know, their school, and they love Jackson State like nobody else. It's got to be an amazing feeling to be able to cover the team, bring people information about the team like nobody else is doing it out there, and just sort of be there for the ride and the experience. I'm jealous. I'm happy for them. But it's got to be an amazing experience, no doubt.
Brian, there's no reason for us to be jealous because
envious might be a better word.
Okay. We here at BCSN have been a part of the process since day one with the pregame show. We've worked behind the scenes with them, with the concept. Now, the concept was their concept. You know, we've produced it. We've helped them refine it. I know our producer Roy has spent many hours in production with them to get this content out to the masses. So shout out, and I just got to say, for them to have, get their mention from the other four-letter network, that the four-letter network comes to them for information.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. And there's a clip that when Charles comes on, we'll play that a little bit later on in the show. So to really bring it home for everyone. But I want to wait till Charles gets on before we play it.
I love the fact that Coach Prime said that during Media Day. I remember him saying in Media Day.
That's the clip.
He told, okay, so I'll stop right there then. That's the clip. So that, and he true to his word. So yeah. We want to thank you if you guys are watching our show on YouTube. Take a second and go ahead and make sure you're subscribed to the Jericho Broadcast Network's YouTube page. That's MyJBN1, or is it just JBN1? I think it's MyJBN1. MyJBN1 there on YouTube, and then give a thumbs up to our show. That's where you can get all the show. And more importantly, hit that bell. Get the notification, so that way when any of our shows are streaming live, you'll get the notification about it. Very important that you do that. We appreciate you supporting. And, of course, if you're on Facebook, do the same thing there on Facebook. Make sure you're signed up or you're part of the Black College Sports Network on Facebook. So all of these shows are streaming there. You can always go back. We appreciate the folks that are watching our show, or I should say listening to our shows on the BCSN Pod Zone or on the BCSN Sports Wrap. Both of those you can find on the podcast networks, whatever you're listening to. I just saw something, Drew, that Spotify, which is, where you can always find our shows, is about to do something with video podcasting. Where else have they been doing video podcasting? Where else? I mean, what a concept.
MyJBN.com, MyJBN app, BCSN app.
Yes, that's right. Just go to your Google or Apple Play Store, MyJBN, MyBCSN. I mean, look, Spotify's not reinventing the wheel.
They just have a bigger platform.
Yeah, but hey, look, if they're not doing anything that we haven't been doing, we do share the same internet. All right, so it is all the same. So, Drew, we can talk. Where do you want to start? We got 2 coaching hires the past week, past 7 days, really past 6 days, 5 days. 2 new hires in the SWAC.
One Monday, one Friday.
Yeah, 2 of the Blue Bloods made some big decisions this week. Or we can start talking about the Celebration Bowl. Where do you want to go?
Let's say the Celebration Bowl. Let's get everything else out the way.
Everything else out the
Celebration Bowl, we might not get to anything else.
I got you. Well, Monday, the 20th head coach of Southern University was named, Eric Dooley. And of course, many people had already predicted and speculated. Just matter of fact, I don't know if it was a full 48 hours after his team losing, his former team, Prairie View A&M, losing to Jackson State in the SWAC championship game. He was named the 20th head coach. Dooley, of course, worked under Pete Richardson, legendary coach, from 97 to 2010. He was a part of the staff when the Jaguars won the 97 and 03 HBCU championships. 4 of those are SWAC. I mean, we talk about the legendary era of Southern. Eric Dooley was there. So, it was kind of one of those things that many people speculated on, but I love the fact that Coach Pete Richardson, he knew it was going to happen. He knew it was just a matter of time. And so, Drew, I bring to you the question, did Prairie View, obviously, if they're not renewing your contract or giving you a new contract extension, did Prairie View drop the ball, or did Prairie View just kind of know what was coming and just say, yeah, it's a good time to turn over and go in a different direction?
I think it was more of Eric Dooley betting on himself. All right, let's back this up to last year. Well, back in the spring when Dawson Odoms left Southern. Yep. And because of the timing, because of how late of a move that was, Southern really did not have an opportunity to go out and do a thorough coaches search because of the abbreviated off seasons that we had this year. So they went with the interim candidate. Eric Dooley had 1 year left on his contract at that point in time. He probably was like, I would love to go home. But when they named Rollins as the interim, he bet on himself. If I could go and have a good season this season, and Rollins has a bad season this season, the opportunity for me to go home will be there. And he did. He bet on himself, and he won. We could think of some athletes in the league who have done things like that. Joe Flacco, Baltimore Ravens, bet on himself. The Lord Jesus, quarterback for the Vikings.
Kirk Cousins bet on himself.
Kirk Cousins bet on himself twice. Put himself in a better position. So that's what Eric Dooley did. Yes, that's what Eric Dooley did. He bet on himself and won, because he could have signed that contract with Prairie View as early as this summer. He could have signed it out there, Drew, in the fall.
Yeah, if I could add, he went in there and then he beat them on homecoming. He beat them. He beat them on their home. So he came home with his team
and beat
48-21
to up the ante.
Yes.
To up the ante. And now let's keep this in mind at the same time. Prairie View saw what was happening and they upped the ante. But it's something about going where you're comfortable, going home that makes the difference. And this, unfortunately, this has happened to Prairie View for 2 consecutive coaches, with Willie Simmons getting the opportunity. And Willie Simmons didn't necessarily bet on himself at Prairie View like Dooley did, but Willie Simmons was getting the opportunity to go back home to Tallahassee, Florida, with him being from Quincy, Florida, which is 20 miles from Tallahassee, Florida, and essentially growing up on the campus of Florida A&M University. But Dooley also had the opportunity, let's keep this in mind, to go to Grambling.
Oh,
remember, Grambling didn't hire their coach till Friday, and Dooley was on Grambling's list also as a Grambling alum. People forget he's a Grambling alum, even though he cut his coaching teeth at Southern.
And he was a part of Fobbs' staff when they won the Black College National title, went unbeaten. He was the OC those years, right?
Yes, correct.
So yeah.
He had his choice of which home he wanted to go to.
Right. It's strange how that works out.
He was in the best position. You talk about leverage and using your leverage to your advantage. That is the perfect case study for how to use your leverage as a professional to your advantage.
I don't think anybody could have played it better. Well, you talk about opportunities and have choices, and to be in a situation where not only your current school, you're doing well, but then to have two other schools with availabilities right at the time that they did really was interesting, and it worked out for Dooley. You know, I think he's at the one of the things that we were asking a lot of people that we talked to, who was the better program at the time, and not necessarily because of the personnel on the field, but just in terms of facilities, alumni base, so on and so forth. And I think most people agreed that we talked to, it was Southern that was the better of the two jobs today. But I think the one that could be is Grambling. But you got to go with today. And looking at today, yeah.
For the length of the contract that he signed, it's going to be Southern for this contract. Now, you get into a second contract, Grambling may be in a better position on a second contract from today. But on an initial contract, Southern is definitely in a better spot. Southern has a plethora of talent already in-house. Dooley, well, the recruiting was going to be the same no matter what, because Dooley's a good recruiter in that Louisiana base, both schools based in the state of Louisiana. So the recruiting would have been even. That would have been on him. But as far as a rabid alumni base and support, and I think the people at Southern really wanted him and gave him a little bit more love than the people at Grambling as far as that inner feeling. So that's why he leaned more towards Southern, in my opinion.
And when you talk about overall record, which I always look at, I think it's an important thing to pay attention to. Overall, 20-17, 16-8 in conference. Never had a below 500 conference record. I think and he did it two different. In his 4 years, he did it two different ways. Because I think the first 2 years, 18 and 19, is when he had Dewanye Tucker and the quarterback. I can't think of his name right now, but he had an outstanding offense. The defense wasn't where it needed to be yet. These last 2 years, the defense was better. I think he was hurt possibly by losing some guys after the spring, but and just imagine, had some of those guys that left in the spring, had they stayed, what Prairie View might have looked like this upcoming season. But he only had one. He had a 5-6 record, 6-5, 2-1 in the spring, and then the 7-5 year. And so I look at his winning record, and as we move forward to the other hire, Can I get one last point? Can I get one last point on Eric Dooley before we move on? Yeah. Go ahead.
Keep in mind that the current athletic director at Prairie View did not hire Dooley, versus him going to a Southern or a Grambling. He wound up at Southern, and that athletic director is bringing him in, and that means something to these coaches. Who brings them in? So that's also a thing. We don't know what kind of relationship Dooley had with the current athletic director at at Prairie View, but that really does mean something to have someone bring you in and say, I want you, I'm willing to pay you XYZ to be a coach.
Yeah, no doubt. So as I was going to move forward towards the other blue blood, Grambling, and really the instant the Dooley hire was made, and really you started hearing by midweek the decision that Grambling was going to go with. And by some of the reports I heard on, or I saw on Twitter, I guess the show or the guys at Swacking a Fool were maybe one of the first guys to break the news that Hugh Jackson was going to be the new coach. Of course, there was a story, HBCU Game Day. I mean, the news got out so fast Wednesday afternoon that I think then Grambling dropped that there was going to be a press conference on Friday, and it was almost like I know I tweeted I felt like the meme of the little kid sitting there on his couch, just waiting, just kind of sitting there on the couch with his arm over his head, and he's just waiting. It was like Grambling's going to make us wait 48 hours when every other outlet is sourcing and saying that Hugh Jackson is getting the job.
Correct.
So it's sort of anticlimactic.
Very, very anticlimactic.
Very anticlimactic. I know the rumor carousel was big. You heard names like Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, whoever else you want to throw in there. I mean, it's Grambling's one of the blue bloods, and it makes me wonder with the hiring of Hugh Jackson. I did see some positive quotes that guys like Doug Williams was excited about the hire. Some other famous, well-known alums of Grambling State were excited about the hire for Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson, of course, was on Eddie George's staff this past year at Tennessee State. And by all accounts, probably did a good job with former Grambling quarterback Jeremy Hickbottom, who was at Tennessee State this past year. And I thought he did a better job as the season went along, especially when Tennessee State hit that stride where they hit about 4 wins in a row. You could see the difference there with Hickbottom, and maybe some credit in there goes to Hugh Jackson. I wonder, and look, all this is happening right at the same time, and I don't know if we talk about this, Drew, in conjunction with the hire, but the Grambling State football players deciding to drop their letter of their issues, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later on. We can talk about that in the next segment. But how about the hire of Hugh Jackson? Do you like? You're kind of like, meh, good decision. Where are you with the? I'm not going to ask you for a grade because I think we're above grades. But where do you put Hugh Jackson in terms of the hiring process by Grambling?
Trying to keep up with the Joneses. That's what that is to me. I think Grambling is trying to keep up with the Joneses. If we go back to when Coach Deion Sanders was hired at Jackson State in December of what year are we in now? It's December of 20. It's hard to believe it's only been a year because we've had two seasons. Excuse me, hired in September of 20 and started working in December of 20. Let's think about the openings we've had in HBCU football on the Division I level.
Right.
After Coach Prime, we had Dawson Odoms leaving Southern, going to Norfolk
State. Yep.
Correct. Southern went with an interim who was already on staff and promoted him to interim. All right. Tennessee State went with Eddie George. And it's a surprising move because no one was expecting wow, he's been gone so long I forgot his name. Help me out, Brian.
Wait a minute. Say that again.
Tennessee State's former coach.
Rod Reed.
Yeah. No one expected Rod Reed to leave because ironically, Rod Reed was one of their own, just like
they didn't renew his. Yeah, they didn't renew his contract. They didn't renew his contract. Yes. They just kind of let that go.
Yeah, just kind of left him out there. So Tennessee State followed the Jackson State trend, went with the NFL player. Now, we've seen what Jackson State has done, but by all accounts, Tennessee State has had a successful season. Also, after a slow start, finishing, I believe, second in the OVC. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So now the trend starting to see the NFL players. Alabama State goes out and hires Eddie Robinson Jr., no relation for everybody who needs to know, former NFL player. Yeah, there's some questions about his background, but let's see. Tennessee State hired a guy who had never coached, had been an entrepreneur. So why are people fussing at Alabama State for hiring a real estate agent? Just got to throw it out there. Y'all need to be fussing at Tennessee State for starting that trend of hiring people with no coaching experience. At least Coach Prime had high school coaching experience.
A decade of it, almost a decade, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So now we're starting to see the NFL trend. So now this is but you got to think about it, this is a new trend now, Brian. This is the first former NFL head coach who's come to HBCU football after having spent a year on Eddie George's staff. So now the question is, and I know this is not even what you asked me, Brian, what is Prairie View going to do? Are they going to continue with this NFL-related trend? Or are they going to do what Prairie View does and give that hotshot assistant his opportunity?
Well, that's a great question. We'll save that and talk a little bit about what Prairie View, and I'll give you my thoughts on what I think Prairie View is going to do in the interesting position that they find themselves in. I think here's the attractiveness for Hugh Jackson. And, there's a report that's coming out on CBS Sports that Grambling's first choice was probably Ed Reed. There's a report that came out this morning that Grambling had offered Ed Reed the job first. Okay. And so Tony Mathers, yes, Ed Reed did turn down the Grambling job. Now, here's what you got to take into consideration for Ed Reed. Ed Reed is already working with the University of Miami, right? They just made a big-time financial investment in their program. One, by pulling one of their own out of Oregon to bring him home. There's a big financial booster commitment. So for Ed Reed, who is a Louisiana native, but he is by far and away strong ties to the U, where he starred and played, the timing was not right for him. And that's sort of what this article says. I mean, Grambling presented a comprehensive package, one that he considered very seriously. And the timing wasn't right because, yes, Ed Reed and what's happening at Miami, the U is about to turn around and come back. So the timing is not good for Ed Reed in that respect because of everything that's going on at Miami. Okay, so let's kind of get that out of the way. And I don't think that should be – I don't put that out there to say that Hugh Jackson is not a better fit than Ed Reed, because I will take head coaching experience over no head coaching experience any day of the week. Now, when you get into wins and losses, you have to sort of look at that with sort of a with the right kind of frames, because both the situations that Hugh Jackson was in were not ideal. I mean, he made chicken soup out of chicken bleach.
Chicken.
Okay. So he was having to work with a lot of mess working for the Raiders and the Bengals. And for Grambling, I think when you have so many well-known, established alums from the NFL, having somebody that is going to be able to call scouts and call people and say, come to Grambling, come take a look at this quarterback I've got, Noah Biden, or whoever else is at Grambling. Because I don't know if scouts are just randomly rolling through that part of Louisiana. I'll be honest, I don't know. But I think it helps when you have somebody like Hugh Jackson, who has the kind of name and credibility that is going to You know, if Hugh says this guy can play, obviously he's got 20 years to be able to compare, you know. So with that respect, I think it's good. Almost in the same respect for Coach Sanders, that he can look at a guy and use his resources to say that X, Y, and Z can play at the next level. Which one of you general managers, which one of you scouts, which one of you guys are going to take the chance on an HBCU guy versus going with the known, well, I should, when I say known, go with the third string or second string guy at Wisconsin, Notre Dame, Ohio State, because you know that program. Well, look, this kid here is your diamond in the rough that you don't know about.
I want to throw something else also out, Brian. Let's think about, we've got USFL making a comeback this spring. So there's more opportunity for people to get film and to get out there and play. XFL is 2 years away. Always have had the CFL, and not quite sure what was. I don't think that other league that played last year, I can't remember the name of it. It's going to be coming back though. You know, so there are more opportunities for people to get out there, get film, get these invites, so that they can play ball, and that's all they need is the opportunity.
Yeah, that's all they need. Coming up on the other side of the break, we'll toss around the idea of Prairie View, and does it make sense if you're Prairie View? Do you go with an assistant coach from one of the programs that are out and about? Do you go with a unknown in the black college coaching search, but he has coached at the Power 5 level? Or do you go with, as you pointed out, Drew, the trend, which is finding somebody who has the strong NFL ties that are going to help your program attract recruits and possibly push a guy or two to the next level? We'll talk about that on the other side. You're watching the Sports Wrap with Brian and AD. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey.
Back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford, AD Drew here. Coming back here. Give me just a second, Drew, as I send a little message to our good producer. Want to make mention of the attendance numbers that recently came out for Jackson State. What was the total number that you showed me that we talked about pre-show?
It was like 42,000. Let me find the post that I had that at, Brian.
I'm sorry, I thought you had that all ready and fired up to go.
I did, but I lost it. Give me a second.
Well, okay, so coming into, I'm going to reference back to an article on the SWAC website from
42,293.
Okay, 42,293. That's the average over 5 years, correct?
FCS single season record, 6 games. I think the SWAC championship game was factored into that.
Okay, so congratulations, Jackson State, blowing it out the water again. And the SWAC, again, will lead FCS conferences.
Can I put this in perspective before you make that point, Ryan?
Sure.
Montana came in number 2, 24-5-84.
Hold on, Drew. Montana is consistently in the top 2 or 3 of attendance. So that 24 is a consistent number every year for Montana. Go ahead.
Right. Montana State came in at number 4 at 18,993. So the 2 state schools in the state of Montana had to combine to beat Jackson State and only beat them by 100, by about 100.
Where did Florida A&M come in at?
If you give me a minute, I will pull that up. I've just got the top 5 here right now. You know we only do top 5s here on the Sports Wrap, Brian.
Right. I'm sorry. And I know, and I bring FAMU up because FAMU is always usually, even when it's average season, but especially in good seasons, usually among the top 5 in attendance numbers. So that's why I brought it up. But this will be I think this will be 43 of the past 44 years that the SWAC has led all FCS or formerly 1AA conferences in attendance numbers. So, I know Jackson State, this will be I don't know how you're counting. I don't know if we can really count the spring 2020 season, but let's just say fall seasons. For fall football seasons, this is the 2nd consecutive fall football season. And just to show the growth, 2019, Jackson State averaged 33,762. So going up to the big jump of 40-something, that's a product of good winning football and, of course, the prime effect. Both of them work hand in hand. Okay, so but don't take away from the football team improving, and then of course their improvement coming at the hands of Coach Prime. And so I guess we'll wait to see what the official numbers are from those NCAA stats. And we were talking about this off the air, and I know there's been a lot of talk, and maybe we'll talk to Charles Bishop, who'll be coming on a little bit later to talk with us at the bottom of the hour. But we'll kind of talk to Charles about, there's a lot of, I've heard the talk that Jackson State is considering or looking into plans of building an on-campus stadium. And we talked off air, Drew, what might that look like in terms of size, fit? Is it realistic for Jackson State to be thinking about building an on-campus stadium that is anywhere near the size of where they play right now at the Vet, which is I've heard he can seat up to 60, but probably 55 to 60 probably. Does it make sense to build something like that? Given your attendance numbers, I think a 40,000 seat stadium seems more realistic with the ability to expand it. I'm curious when we get a chance to talk to Charles what he thinks, but what do you think about the on-campus stadium project and what kind of stadium makes sense for Jackson State, Drew?
If it's me, just talking size, I'm looking at a 40,000 seat stadium is what I would go with, but something that could be expandable for special events, because you definitely, when you've got a Valley that comes to town, or an Alcorn that comes to town, or a Southern that comes to town, teams that tend to draw, You want to be able to add a few seats to the stadium without having to go to a SRO, a standing room only, for those who may not know what SRO means. So I would probably go with 42,000, somewhere up in there. Possibly a lawn section so that people can, you can add lawn seats or something like that to get more people into the stadium. That's kind of the design that I would look at versus the enclosed stadium that they have right now.
I think if you have an on-campus stadium and you're talking about playing maybe 5 games out of the year, would one of those 5 games you maybe move off campus to the vet, where you maybe move? Yeah, go ahead.
Part of the reason that they're talking about the vet is because if you've never been to Jackson, the vet is next to the hospital in Jackson, Mississippi. Part of the reason and the state and everything was talking about, from what I gather as an outsider, of them moving on campus away from the vet is so the hospital could take over their property at the vet. So the vet may not be an option if they build that on-campus stadium anymore.
All right. Okay. So yeah, we'll get a chance to talk to Charles and maybe get some thoughts. I know he's probably dug in deep there and should be able to share some things about that. Before the break, we were talking about the open search. Now, back in maybe about 4 or 5 weeks ago, if you took the over when I threw out 3.5 new coaches in the SWAC, ding, 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 winner, winner, chicken dinner, because we will have at least 4 new coaches in the SWAC, and it sort of has played out the way I envisioned when I set the number at 3.5. There's one opening which hasn't happened, and good, because I didn't think it would happen. I'm not going to mention it, but the opening of Prairie View is now the 4th new coach that'll be into the SWAC for next year. So that's 1/3 of the nope. Did I get that right? 1/4 of the SWAC will have new coaches next year. All right. That means
and three of those 4 openings are in the West, by the way.
Yes. Brand new openings in the West. So
that's 50% of the West.
That's going to make Alcorn State feel really good. The fact that you have the most tenured coach. And I think now, does that make Coach McNair, Fred McNair, the most tenured coach in the SWAC now that Odoms is gone, Fobbs is gone? I'm doing a quick scroll through my head.
Do you count Sims? How long has Sims been at Bethune? Since they are now a SWAC team. He's not tenured in the SWAC, but tenured with his program.
Yeah. Because he's been there
that would be the only one who would be able to challenge that. Possible.
Yes. So yeah, that's a good. If I said in the SWAC, I'd go McNair, Coach McNair. And if you just said with your program, it probably would be Coach Sims, because I think he's on year 8 or 9 now. And I think McNair is on year 7. I don't know. Somebody out there, you guys hit us up with some correct numbers there if we're off there. So the names that are running amok for the Prairie View head coaching position, first name out the box, Kevin Sumlin. Little known fact, Drew, Coach Kevin Sumlin is from my hometown of Indianapolis, Indiana. His father served as a deacon at the church I grew up with my father. Just little. I've never met Kevin Sumlin, but I would love to be able to. I would love to be able to, meet Kevin Sumlin and say, my father was a deacon with your father at New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church in Indianapolis, Indiana, and always spoke very highly of your father. Anyway, so I just had to toss it out there. Shout out to New Bethel in Indianapolis, where I grew up. And okay, anyway, but yeah, Kevin Sumlin is the name. all kinds of stuff being tossed out there. 24/7 Sports, HBCU Game Day, all saying that. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if it's Kevin Sumlin has been contacted by Prairie View. I'm looking at the HBCU Game Day article that he's been contacted about the job. And there were some thoughts that he was contacting schools about a job. Because I think Sumlin, who was formerly at Houston, parlayed that into a big payday at Texas A&M. Then when they let him go, he parlayed that into a bigger gig at Arizona, which is outstanding, by the way. Hey, there are not too many black men in college football who have transitioned up. So props to Kevin Sumlin for, at one point, he was one of the top 3 or 4 highest paid coaches. And we're talking well over $5 million, almost in that $7 million range. So props to Kevin Sumlin and his agent. But, so him coming into the area, looking to get back coaching, I think this is a point where you got somebody who, if you're Prairie View, I don't want to say this is his last job, but you got somebody who realistically, Drew, he may say, this could be my last coaching opportunity, and let me take everything that I've done and give back to the HBCU community, because he doesn't have to go chase money and chase big contracts. He's worked at 2 Power 5 programs.
I think he still got buyouts that he's getting paid on.
You know what? He might be. I was kind of doing a quick search here and kind of see who's still paying.
Texas A&M gave him a good buyout because he was at A&M last. Texas A&M last.
Yeah. He was at Arizona last. He was at Arizona.
Right. I know Texas A&M bought him out to hire Jimbo.
Yes.
So
he was. So I'm reading the report here from Game Day, HBCU Game Day. He was let go by Texas A&M after the 2017 season. He was 51-26, which, look, come on. I mean, 51-26, but anyway, he moved up. He went 3 seasons at Arizona, which is not a football place. Look, that's him. I mean, he was 9-20 in those 3 years there, but Arizona is not a football program, and God bless him for trying to do something. Hell, everyone has failed there in Arizona. Even Rich Rodriguez has failed, who I think came in after Sumlin. But Sumlin was owed a buyout north of $7 million from the University of Arizona. And the article states that any money he makes coaching would be subtracted from what he's owed. So, yeah, technically he could come in and say, oh, you only had to pay me a couple $100,000. Yeah, exactly.
$1.
That's not going to happen. But he could realistically, he could do Arizona that way and say, yeah, they still owe me money. So, you don't have to come up with a lot. But I don't think that would happen anyway. And, his former assistant coach, Clarence McKinney, is over at Texas Southern. So that would be pretty interesting. The fact that they're in the West, you've got those two who worked the Houston area and were friends and colleagues and coaching together. So what's your thought on Sumlin as I scour through a couple of these articles and try to see who are some of the other names that are up for consideration?
Okay, assuming if Sumlin comes in, does this start a new trend? We've got the NFL trend. Does this start a trend of former Power 5s coming to HBCU? I'm just throwing something out there. I'm trying to figure out because you know what happened then that when the next coach leaves at HBCU, there'll be another Power 5 guy who's trying to reinvent himself, who will come to an HBCU.
Let me simplify that. Let me simplify that. Do you want someone who has head coaching experience or not? Because there are candidates out there, and look, I'm just gonna throw a couple names and shout out to Kyle Mosley, SI. He throws out a couple of names from off the Jackson State staff. Gary Harrell, or AKA Coach Fleet, Dennis Thurman, the DC for Jackson State. How about KJ Black, the co-offensive coordinator at FAMU, who is a Prairie View alum? I mean, so there's some options.
That would be
all
good.
three of those. All three of those guys do not have head coaching experience like Sumlin, though. So what do you want, Drew? You want experience, or you want to give the next guy a chance?
How about let's give some guys an opportunity to move up, aka Quentin Morgan from Langston, who's done nothing but won at Langston, aka David Wilson, who's done nothing but won at Bowie State, Reginald Ruffin, who's done nothing but won at Miles College. What about these smaller guys with head coaching experience, but they don't have that Division I or FCS experience? What about these guys getting left out of the weeds right now? Let's have that conversation also, Brian.
Ooh. Okay. I mean, look, you're bringing up valid points, Drew. I don't, this is, look, Dr. Donald Reed, the new athletic director as of July of 2020. You go dig into his background and go see where Dr. Reed is coming from. And, based on his experiences, you could probably begin to figure out or maybe guesstimate on where he might go. It'll be interesting. I would not be. As I'm reading sort of his little bio here, he is a Texan. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes with the more polished Kevin Sumlin, who has a recruiting base, knows Texas, knows Houston. I think that might be the splash for Dr. Reed. The question is, can you make it work? I'm more concerned about
will the alumni go for it?
Can you fill up that beautiful stadium? Because I looked at some of those Prairie View games. There were a lot of empty seats in that beautiful stadium, and that's a shame. That's a shame. That's a double-decker stadium on the home side. I think you should have empty seats at that place. I don't know. Doc will tell you, or maybe some of the other folks that we talk to on a regular might tell you, but I don't know why is no one coming out to and Prairie View's in the midst of a winning season, and where's the crowd at? Anyway, I digress. We've got a good friend. We've got Charles Bishop coming up, I believe, on the other side, right, Drew? So let's take a break. Yeah, let's take a break and come back with Charles Bishop, and we'll break down the Celebration Bowl and try to see if we can find a way for South Carolina State to score 21 points, 22, because Coach Prime has said if they can't score more than 21 points, you ain't beating them, and he might be right. So let's find out as we talk to Charles Bishop of the pregame show on the other side. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
I'm attorney Clinton Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong. Go get 'em! It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
And he picks up a first down.
And I'm going to go back to, we talked to our friends, Charles Bishop and Neely. They follow Jackson State football and having dinner with them. I mean, they said this team feels like nobody can score 3 times on them. 3 times. He didn't say if it was 3 field goals, 3 touchdowns. Prairie View has scored twice. Touchdown, field goal. That's how good this defense is. And, whoa, they are as good as advertised.
4th best in all of FCS.
It got to get to the point where whoever we're doing the broadcast that week of the game, they're going to have to sit down with y'all because y'all know us better than everybody. Sure. And y'all know some of the inside stuff that I may not tell them because I don't trust them, but
Trust us.
Trust y'all.
We appreciate that trust.
Appreciate that, Coach. Much love, baby.
Well, joining us after that great lead-in is a good friend of the program and co-host of the pregame show, Mr. Charles Bishop. Charles, thanks for taking some time to join us, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys inviting me on.
The reason we brought that up is because we were talking about it. How cool, for lack of a better adjective, is it that all of the stuff that you've seen this past season, this journey, is what I like to call it. That you, as an alum, a fan, you grew up with Jackson. You're covering it with Neely, and here it is, like Coach Prime said. Giving you guys the access and the ability to information so that national networks are coming to you to get info. How cool is that?
Oh, it's tremendous. I mean, when you talk about the access that Coach Prime has given us, as well as the rest of the assistant coaches, to be sitting in team meetings, to be sitting in film room, to learn what they learned during the course of the week and watch it go into action on game day. It's been a phenomenal experience, and I couldn't ask for more. Like you said, I grew up on Jackson State football. I've been a fan of Jackson State football, and to be able to quote unquote be behind the curtain to watch how it's all made, it's been phenomenal.
Let me ask you this, Charles, before we get into talking about Jackson State specifically. Like you say, growing up there in Jackson, you're a native of Jackson and a Jackson alum. What would you say was that 1 or 2 things that when you got behind the scenes that you discovered that maybe as a kid you didn't know, and it changed your perspective of something, or even as an adult, once you got there behind the scenes, seeing what you seen that was totally different than what you expected this year?
That's a great question. I think one of the first things is you are kind of reverent of the program, but to see how much work goes in from Monday through Friday, from Sunday through Friday, it has been phenomenal to kind of watch up close. I have to say that this staff has really put this team through the paces, and they are, it is competition. I think that's the thing that jumps out at you on a daily basis. It is never a situation where you're not in a competitive spirit. So I think that's one of the things that really has jumped out with me this past season and watching Jackson State football. And like I said, it's been phenomenal to watch. The growth of these student athletes from the first week of August through now. They've grown leaps and bounds in front of the camera, as well as leaps and bounds in terms of their development as a football player.
Last thing, before Mariah gets into the football, give us your best Coach Prime moment behind the scenes.
All right, let me tell you something. If he was not an NFL Hall of Famer, he literally could be a stand-up comedian. He is a riot. He is a laugh a minute. His observations about any and everything, he can turn it into a 8-minute stand-up. He is literally an extremely funny dude. The gregarious personality, it extends to whatever, and it's not
so that's natural.
Can't talk on. It's very natural. I promise you, he could be an excellent comedian.
Hey, one of the things we got into talking about as it relates to, of course, Jackson State recognized with the average of 42,000 plus in the FCS home attendance number, by far and away, nearly doubled up the number 2 school who's a regular in that top 3 or 4. The previous fall, 2019, Jackson State averaged 33,000 plus. And we got to talking about the stadium talk, because I know that's out there about building an on-campus stadium. And we were kind of talking about, if Jackson State built an on-campus stadium, would the perfect size be more in the 40,000 seat range that it could expand out, or would it be building something as big as what they're already playing in? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, and you may already have ideas or know what plans are in the works, but just what are your thoughts on stadium and size, so on and so forth?
Yeah, I think 40,000 is probably a good median number that I think would accommodate Jackson State's fan base. And you take a look at some of the teams that come in. A lot of people don't know Mississippi Valley State has a tremendous fan base. The Mississippi Delta follows that football team, and they will travel when that Mississippi Valley State team is winning. I remember back in 1984 when Tottenham Rice was there, their fan base rivaled anybody's fan base in the SWAC. But when you talk about Valley, Southern, Alcorn, I'm sure once we start doing home and homes with fam, you're probably talking about a consistent 35,000 easily. That should easily reach up to 45, possibly 50. So I think 40 would be that just that perfect number if we would build an on-campus stadium.
And so I go to the next question. What is the latest talk, or what is the latest on rumors and things that you have heard about that process?
Yeah, I mean, there have been feasibility studies, and I think it's well known that University of Mississippi Medical Center wants that property where Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium is, and they've looked at the link or the land between Jackson State and the downtown area, which Jackson State is roughly 5 minutes from downtown Jackson. So you're trying to put it in an area that can be a natural link into the Jackson business community. But I think there are arguments, at least on both sides, because you will have some people who will argue what is the need of on-campus stadium when you have this obvious recruiting tool. This recruiting tool, no other FCS team in the country beyond Yale has a 60,000 seat stadium, 62,500. It is a huge recruiting advantage. And then you have to take a look at the question is, would you get the support from the Jackson corporate community to have a 20-year suite, or to have that signage on the field? So I think there are arguments on both sides as to whether there is the need for a 40,000 seat stadium, 45,000 seat stadium, or if you can continue to hold on to this jewel and look at trying to, refurbish it or whatever that you need to do. But it is definitely a recruiting star or a recruiting asset that is in Jackson State's toolbox.
And it's not that you guys have a 60,000 seat stadium. It's the fact that you do a good job at filling up that 60,000 seat stadium is the recruiting tool. Because if you got a 60,000 seat stadium with 5,000 people there, just ask Tennessee State what that looks like. But
Yeah,
I
mean,
digress.
you make a great point. I mean, you make a great point. I mean, Jackson State football is definitely something that's woven into the community of Jackson. And I've said this for quite some time. Jackson State football is unique in that that fan base has not been peeled away by Ole Miss, USCM, or Mississippi State. Whereas, you look at other states and the African-American population gets peeled away, pulling for Alabama, pulling for Auburn, pulling for LSU. It hasn't quite happened that way to that large extent as you watch with Jackson State football. So by and large, they've been able to keep their fan base from going all the way back to the 60s.
Yeah. And speaking of Jackson State football, here's the question. And the lead in actually gave us a premise for the question. Can South Carolina State either A, figure out a way to score more than 21 points, because that's the magic number for Jackson State. They don't give up 21. Or B, can South Carolina State hold Jackson State under 21 points to give themselves a chance, since Jackson State doesn't give up 21 points? What you say, Charles Bishop?
It's going to be extremely difficult for a team to score 3 times or more than 3 times on this Jackson State defense. You're talking about the number 2 defense in the nation, and you're talking about a defense, their first mantra is stop the run. And when they are able to stop the run and can pin their ears back and come after the quarterback, they're the best in the nation. I mean, when you take a look at it, they have 53 sacks, I believe, which leads the nation in sacks. They're averaging close to 5 sacks a game. So once they take away your one thing that you do really well, and everybody wants to run the football and everybody wants to be physical, they've done a tremendous job all season in stopping the run. I think you've only had a couple of occasions where you've had a 100-yard rusher. Texas Southern actually did a tremendous job, I thought, schematically, of getting Jackson State back on their heels, but they scored at 21 points in the first half. They didn't get anything else going forward. So you're talking about a team for the past 4 games, they held their opponents scoreless in the fourth quarter. So it's going to be a difficult task for South Carolina State to get to that 21 points and score more than that 21 points. But yes, when you take a look at them, one of the things you take a look at with South Carolina State, you're talking about a team with multiple All-MEAC selections, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Those linebackers, those guys jump out to me when you talk about Chad Gilchrist and B.J. Davis. They're 1-2 on the team in terms of tackles. Defensive line, they're active. Patrick Garbo, Octavian Mentor, they're a very formidable defense. So can they hold Jackson State's offense? Yes, because I think, as we've seen, Jackson State is, I think, last in the SWAC in terms of rushing. So when you put all the pressure on Shedeur Sanders' shoulders to make plays downfield, you have a great opportunity to keep them from scoring.
You folks out there watching us, make sure you hit the comments. Let us know your score predictions. Jackson State, last I saw, an 11.5-point favorite. It might have gone up. Who knows? There might be a lot of Jackson State money coming in, so who knows? But let's start getting those score predictions in now. Let us know. I saw Mike Reed drop a 28-21 score that South Carolina State covers, but Jackson State comes out with the win. Speaking of South Carolina State's running, you mentioned their ability, or Jackson State's defense ability, to stop the run. South Carolina State comes into this averaging just under 142 yards per game. And, we understand, and I don't know, would you say, I'm trying to just go through my head and say who had a good rushing attack that's comparable. I don't know if it's Prairie View or FAM, and those two were at 2 different ends of the season. Can you think of anybody, Charles, that might have a rushing attack that's similar? And that their quarterback, Corey Fields, has the ability to run. We saw what he did beginning of the season against Alabama A&M. Who might be the comparable opponent that Jackson State has had that rushes as well as South Carolina State does?
I think a comparable opponent in terms of having a physical offensive line and having a team that can really wear you down running the football would be Southern. Southern is a tremendous football team in terms of running the football, very physical offensive line. We saw all the all-SWAC selections they had in the spring. Still a great job in terms of running football. Didn't have the season that they wanted, but they were a physical line, and Jackson State was able to go into Baton Rouge and really snuff out that running game. And like I said, pin their ears back and come after the quarterback. So I think when you're talking about, and when I take a look, I always look at those MEAC offensive lines with reverence, because what we've seen in the Celebration Bowl over the past 5-6 years is that they have the ability to come in and beat you up physically. To me, the comparable team to that would be Southern.
But when you say that though, can't you almost say, but really that's like one program? I mean, like A&T has been to 4 of these, right? If I have it right, 4 of the past 5. Central was the other one, so it really has been the North Carolina Bowl. North Carolina has represented.
But Brian, take a look at the MEAC SWAC challenges with those MEAC teams play those SWAC teams. It's the same story that we get in the Celebration Bowl. It seems like the MEAC teams come in a lot more physical than the SWAC teams. And let's be real, the SWAC teams are built on finesse, it seems like, if you just want to characterize it. And the MEAC teams are built on power run games. So, it's just not in the Celebration Bowl MEAC SWAC challenges. MEAC is winning the series as of late. So, hopefully Jackson State comes in prepared. We saw what no one gave Central a chance against Alcorn in August. And what happened? Central handed it to Alcorn. So,
and that's
your
a great
comment,
point,
Charles.
That's a great point, but I would also take a look at it from this standpoint. Jackson State has literally been getting everybody's best punch all throughout the season. So they are a very seasoned football team. When you take a look at them at this point, I think they've gotten everybody's just best punch all throughout the season. When you take a look at the 21 points that Texas Southern scored, I think Texas Southern really, in so many ways, played above and beyond in that particular game. But LaCorey Howard had a tremendous game against Jackson State running football, had 198 yards rushing. But again, they were able to schematically make some changes in the second half, and they cut the rushing part out. So, you just take a look at, it's going to take quite a bit to overcome this Jackson State defense, and it's a historic Jackson State defense. When you talk to a lot of Jackson State fans, the defenses that come out are the 1987 defense that I believe held opponents to like 12.9 points per game, and the 1996 Black College National Championship defense. And this defense is definitely in that conversation. Jackson State coming into this game only giving up 13.5 points a game. So, and they have been fast, physical. They've met every sort of dynamic in terms of offense that you could take a look at. They've had the running quarterback. They've had the pocket quarterback. They've stopped whomever's rushing game. So they have met all the metrics.
All right, Charles, let me get you out of here on this. Give the folks, and I know you're going to be doing this all week, but give us something that folks can key on as it relates to whether it's offense versus defense, special teams, something that folks need to pay attention to from the Jackson State side as it relates to their preparation and getting ready for South Carolina State.
One of the things that you've seen all throughout the year is good plays beget good plays with Jackson State, and it becomes a feeding frenzy. Everybody wants to get in on it. So if they're able to get a little bit of a good play here, a good play there, if they seem to just feed off of the good feelings in that regards, and then I really look for Jackson State to have a 12-man advantage in this Celebration Bowl, and once the fans get involved in it, that is another something. It's like chum in the water, especially for this defense. But if you really take a look at it, I think special teams. Zay Bolden is a dynamic kick returner. Warren Newman is a dynamic punt returner. Southern was the one team that I thought schematically took that element of the game away from Jackson State. They just went with pooch kicking and just didn't kick it to Zay Bolden and kicking away from Warren Newman. So that'll be one of those things that I sort of start taking a look at. Will South Carolina State kick to those guys? We saw Prairie View, took their chances and kicked to both of them, and they paid dearly with a kick return. And Warren Newman almost broke at least 2 punt returns. So.
Yep. I'm not going to ask you a score prediction. I'm going to ask you an attendance-related question. Final question. Over or under, I'm going to set it high. 42.5. 42,500. Over or under 42,500?
Over. Definitely over.
Okay.
Yeah, this Jackson State fan base, they have waited for this moment. It started with the SWAC championship, but this Celebration Bowl, they've heard it, they've watched Alcorn go for the past, X number of years. They've been frothing at the mouth to get to the Celebration Bowl. So now that they have the opportunity, you get to see this Jackson State fan base up close and in full throat. They're looking forward to it. So definitely over 42.
Okay, if y'all get it done, I know you guys are gonna be giving Alconites hell for the next decade. Talking about we let y'all go there, and you oh boy, that's gonna be just add more fuel to the fire. All right, Charles. Hey, make sure to pay attention all week. Dr. Cavill's inside the HBCU Sports Lab Tuesday and Thursday night.
When's the show gonna drop?
I was going to say, what kind of things are you doing with the pregame show? Any shows this week?
We're in the midst of getting interviews now, embedding interviews within the show, and look for our show to come out latter part of this week. I think there was a huge meet and greet on Friday for the Jackson State alumni. So we're putting our heads together in terms of putting something together for this upcoming Friday so that everybody gets an opportunity to see this Jackson State alumni, this Jackson State fan base that is so looking forward to the Celebration Bowl.
Well said. All right, so that means you guys need to go make sure you hit the bell, not only on MyJBN1, but go over to the pregame show, hit the bell, like and subscribe, so that way you get notified when these shows go live. Hey, Charles, enjoy the week, man. It's got to be fun when your school is in this position. Hopefully one day, God bless, we'll get the opportunity to experience it. But enjoy the week, man, and I know we'll see you out there.
No doubt about it. Looking forward to it. I appreciate you guys inviting me on.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial with Mo Carter to close us out. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back in just a moment.
Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the Quicker Picker-Upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the Quicker Picker-Upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com. Test 1, 2. Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian and AD here. Joining us right now to close out the show, good friend Mo Carter, WZDX in Huntsville, Alabama. Mo, how are we doing tonight?
Hey, doing well, man. Just getting ready for another night of action-packed sports on my newscast, and then we'll knock out some things for my 30-minute show right after that. A lot of things to talk about with football and basketball and a couple other sports here in the Tennessee Valley. And so it's going to be pretty jam-packed, and at the same time keeping my eye out on, the comings and goings of these coaches around the HBCU realm as well.
Yeah, so let's start right there. Eric Dooley comes home, man. He's coming back. You, as a former Southern player, now you played when Dooley was on staff, yes?
Yes. I was on the staff when Coach Dooley was there.
So give us your thoughts on Dooley coming home and what does that mean for Southern's program?
Well, quite frankly, I've talked to a bunch of my former teams who also played with me when Coach Dooley was there, and everybody's ecstatic about having him back as the head man. One thing you can actually say of whatever is like, not only was Coach Dooley like a likable coach, he was one of those coaches that you knew back in the day, eventually he was going to find success at the head coaching level. It was just going to be a matter of time. And also considering the fact that, hey, he is a Louisiana guy. He's from New Orleans. He's a graduate of the Southern University system, played at Grambling, was on Coach Pete Richardson's staff for so many years. It almost was just fitting that he was going to make a return to Southern University in Baton Rouge. His daughter is also an undergrad at the school. So a lot of things really came to play into his favor with that. It was just a perfect opportunity for that. And also, I think being as an alumnus, I like the hire primarily because Coach Dooley understands the culture at Southern. He also understands that the fan base wants to see the team be winners and also wants to see them compete for championships. So because of that, he understands these things. He's not blindsided coming into it. And also, for sure, he knows he's got to hit the ground running. As a matter of fact, I think I looked as of today in one of the alumni groups, I think he's already picked up like two commits as well. One is a grad transfer and one high school guy in the past 24 hours. So, I mean, that goes to show you that he is definitely trying to work. And also, you got to keep this in mind, too. His staff isn't fully put together yet. So because of that, he's doing a lot of this footwork right now. And, it's an exciting time. And the other good thing, too, was that he has his former coach, my former coach, Pete Richardson, right there on his side, helping him through some things. Matter of fact, if you looked at the press conference last week, when he got up to the podium and received, the hat and everything, before he even started talking, he saw Coach Richardson in the crowd, ran over to him, shook his hand, gave him a big old hug, and was like, "Thank you so much." And then he was like, "All right, now let me talk about football."
Yeah, that's a beautiful synergy when you can have a legend like Coach Richardson there and sort of that intrinsic passing of the torch kind of thing going on. Now, of course, the other blue blood in the state of Louisiana and in black college football, Grambling, hires Hugh Jackson, and forever we will debate Hugh Jackson versus Eric Dooley. What's your thoughts on the Hugh Jackson hire by Grambling?
I will say this. I was a little surprised just because the Grambling State hire or whatever, the process leading up to it, it was pretty quiet, honestly. I'd asked some of the family members that I have who actually went to Grambling and other people who were close to the situation, and a lot of people really hadn't heard much. Then all of a sudden, you kind of heard the Ed Reed rumors a little bit, and then you heard Hugh Jackson. All of a sudden, somebody got wind of it, and next thing you know, Hugh Jackson is hired at Grambling State to take over up there in Lincoln Parish, North Louisiana, which I'll say this. Travion Scott, the new athletic director for Grambling, who also is an alum, plus he was also in the inaugural Southern University 40 Under 40 Alumni Association cohort with me. He is a guy who is very, very smart and eager to get some things going. So I think for sure he looked at it and said, I've got to make a splash and a hire. And I really think, too, bringing a guy like Hugh Jackson in, yeah, it's a risk, but at the same time, too, God knows how to coach. I think it's just a matter of how much does his coaching from the NFL side translate over to the college. Yes, he was under Eddie George this past season at Tennessee State. They saw moderate success or whatever, but now he's a head man. So it's going to be, quite interesting to say the least. But Grambling folks who I've talked to and texted with or what, they're kind of excited about it. I think they're kind of in the same mindset as Southern folks. They're just like, hey, we want to see our teams be successful on the field, in the classroom, and compete for championships.
All right, now, Bo, let me ask you this. You're there in the state of Alabama. I know you cover Alabama A&M right now, but it's been pretty quiet since Eddie Robinson Jr. was hired at Alabama State. Have you heard anything from Alabama State alumni or followers about what they think about the hire of Eddie Robinson there in that state?
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of people who are actually here in the Huntsville area who are Alabama State grads, including a guy who played for Alabama State like in the late 70s. And the actual reaction to Eddie Robinson has been actually pretty positive for the most part. I will say this, those folks did tell me we were a little shocked or whatever about it, but like the guy who played for Alabama State, who I spoke to, he basically said this. He was like, hey, I'm a former football player. Eddie Robinson, former football player. Eddie has kept up with the program for so many years, traveling back and forth. And for many people that don't know, when I worked in Montgomery and I was the play-by-play person for Alabama State football and basketball, Eddie was actually my color analyst for 2 seasons. So the guy knows his stuff just in general, but I really think too, it's going to be boiling down to, hey, he does know his X's and O's, but I really think he's got to put together a really good staff around him for them to be successful just in general. Now, don't get me wrong, Eddie Robinson was a heck of a football player. SWAC Defensive Player of the Year in the early 90s. I think I've heard in this speech that the year before, Aeneas Williams was the SWAC Defensive Player of the Year, and then Michael Strahan was the year after him, so he always felt that he never really made it up to the level of those guys or whatever, so now he wants to find a way to do it on the coaching level, and maybe he can take some things up a notch. So, yeah, there is some excitement or whatever with that Alabama State situation. But also, too, I kind of have that feeling that they kind of already had that thing going just in general, or at least the conversation for a while or whatever, because it's like, hey, Turkey Day Classic, here it is. Then later on that evening, you see the recap, and then Alabama State will have a press conference introducing the new coach, like later on that evening. So I got a feeling there was some inner workings going on in the latter part of the season. I mean, me personally, knowing Eddie, I'm very excited for him. Just in general, I hope he does well. But me, as the sports anchor in Huntsville, hope they do well, except for the last weekend in the month of October.
In October, yeah. All right. Quickly, our time is running short, so I want to ask you a football question about the Celebration Bowl. You've seen both teams in the Celebration Bowl there in your stadium. Give us a quick take on something that fans need to look for to give them an early indication on who's going to win in this game.
So, quite frankly, we know Jackson State is the favorite. I think they're 11 or 12-point favorite just in general. The thing South Carolina State's going to have to do, yes, they do have an explosive offense or whatever, but we've seen how good Jackson State's defense is. So, honestly, I feel that South Carolina State and Buddy Pugh, they're going to have to do one or two things to even stay in this. One, they're going to have to get some defensive turnovers and parlay that into better field position for their offense, or they're going to have to find a way to get some points on special teams. If they can find ways to get points in other realms besides offense or whatever, then they've got a legitimate shot in that situation. But at the end of the day, I mean, Jackson has kind of showed that, hey, they're kind of the cream of the crop just in general. So it would be a huge upset if Buddy Pugh and them could definitely pick up the W just in general. And I also kind of look at it like this. I think years past, we've seen South Carolina State beat a good defensive team. I think offensively, they've been the better on the better side of the ball. So with that being, can their offense move against Jackson State's defense? I'm not exactly sure. That's why I think their defense is going to have to find a way to get turnovers or get stops to put their offense in better field position to get scores easier. Because let's be frank, they're not driving the ball 80 and 75 yards down the field against that Jackson State defense and finding success on next Saturday.
It's funny you say that because I think they might look. There have been teams that have had moments. Like Texas Southern had 3 quarters of good ball against Jackson. There's moments. I just think there's always a quarter where Jackson State just finds a way to just blank you while they're putting 14, 17, 20 on the board. Can South Carolina State avoid that quarter That's what's going to be interesting. Can South Carolina State avoid that quarter where they have no production, and whether it's because of special teams, defense, whatever, like Jackson State all of a sudden runs off 2-3 scores in a row, and then you're looking at the scoreboard like, oh, hell, now we're down. We went from a 3-point ball game to down 17. That's what I think they have to avoid. What's your score prediction?
Oh, man, I don't really give too many of these. Just in general. If I had to go with a score prediction right now, I'd probably say Jackson State 30, South Carolina State 17.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking Jackson State 31, South Carolina State 17. That's where I'm at now. I'm gonna try to be consistent, and that's for all you guys out there. Anybody watching, be consistent with your predictions. Look, I know nothing, and short of an injury, nothing's changing. So if you jump on one of these networks and say 28-21, whatever, you better stick to that by Thursday and Friday when people come up and talking to you. What's your score? All of a sudden, people are like, oh, I think it's going to be a flip. No, hell, you keep your predictions. Drew, what's your prediction?
27-9 Jackson State.
27-9 Jackson State. All right. Well said. Mo, thank you for your time. Make sure you guys follow Mo on Twitter. Mo, give folks where they can find you at on Twitter again before I mess it up.
Yes, sir. On Twitter, it's at Mo Carter, CARTER, Fox 54, and it's also at Mo Carter Fox 54 on Facebook. You can check out my recaps on things going on here in North Alabama and Huntsville, including with Alabama A&M. And, I may sprinkle a few other things in there just in general with some of the other schools I have going on. But this is an HBCU Center show, so we're just going to talk about HBCUs just in general. But you'll see some other things if you head over to my social media because, hey, we got to cover a lot here in the state of Alabama, including a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to hear what Coach Maynard – well, I was just going to say, it'll be interesting to see Coach Maynard, having played both teams. It'll be interesting to hear his thoughts, and I'm sure you'll be on that. But, it'll be interesting to hear what he says about both opponents as well. Go ahead, Drew.
I would say, next time we get you on here, we're going to have to talk about the Alabama A&M women's basketball team because they're off to a pretty good start this year. So as we get ready for SWAC play, we definitely want to get you in to talk about the women and the men's basketball team at Alabama A&M.
They've been battle tested. I know that the record only shows 1-6, but in those 6 losses against some really, really good teams, they were in those games for a long, long period of time until those other teams started to pull away. But that game this past week against Sanford down in Birmingham, that was huge. Nigeria Jones with 28 points. She just could not miss. It was like she was throwing ocean. That's just how good she was in that scenario, just in general. But, yeah, Coach Margaret Richards always has her team prepped and ready. I think they'll be battle tested by the time they get in the SWAC play, which, oh, my God, it starts in 3-4 weeks. It's crazy just to show you how quickly things go in the calendar. So, yeah, it'll be a very, very interesting year as we transition from the end of football into basketball. But I think it's going to be some fun times in the SWAC. And I'm also interested to see how everybody's going to stack up against the 2 Florida schools in their first season for SWAC basketball.
And Alabama A&M has our women's BCSN Player of the Year, Dariana Lewis. So, of course, Alabama A&M is going to be balling this year. We know that because she works. She's a walking bucket and a rebound.
And she follows us.
And she follows. Shout out to Dariana Lewis. Shout out Miss Lewis. There you go. All right. Thank you for your time, Mo. Have a good week, man, and a good show tonight. All right.
All right. Thanks. You guys do the same.
All right. Hey, Drew, I know you had a final thought that you wanted to get in before we wrap up the show, so I'll give you a moment to get that in.
Yeah, just quickly, not sports related, but shout out to Morris Brown College, who took another step into getting back into relevancy as far as HBCUs go. We know the name, but now they are officially cleared to be able to offer federal financial aid. That means people can go and fill out their FAFSA and use those dollars at Morris Brown College. So the AU may be back at full tilt real soon, Brian. So I would love to see it. maybe one day soon we'll be talking about Morris Brown sports here on the BCSN Sports Wrap.
All right. Hey, thanks everybody for the conversation, being a part of it, for watching and sharing. Make sure you go share the show on YouTube. Check out the podcast. If you missed any parts of today's show, go share the podcast. Thanks again to Charles Bishop and Mo Carter for joining us. Thanks to our producer, Roy, for sticking in there with us. BJ Jones, Inside HBCU Football, should be coming up next. Make sure you guys check that show out. And make sure you're stayed locked in with the Black College Sports Network as it's Celebration Bowl week, the Cricket Celebration Bowl, Saturday, noon kickoff. South Carolina State, Jackson State, New Blood, over 45,000 people, maybe 50. I set the bar at 42, Drew. I'm going to go on a limb. Might be 50,000 people, 50,000 plus in the house that Dion built. So there it is. All right. That's going to do it for this show. Thanks, everybody. You guys be safe. Take care of yourself.
Thanks for all the comments out there.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for great interaction, guys. We love you. Happy holidays. And, hey, let's get to it. Enjoy the Celebration Bowl. For AD Drew, I'm Brian Fulford. You've been watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. Peace out.
I holla.
But stay on hard.